grateful, Pastor Jerry, that your associate was able to be here the last couple of days. The morning presentations with children's ministry have just been fantastic. I've been so appreciative of the presentations. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning. I'm going to have a short prayer and introduce him. His name is Jerry Lopez, right? And he is the associate director for the Children's Ministry Department of the North American Division. I wrote up a little bit about him, did a little research. Apparently, he has been a pastor, a chaplain, a principal, a youth pastor. I think the long list of things before he started working for the division. So he has a lot of experience. I know he has a passion for children, for discipling our children. And Pastor Jerry, we just want to welcome you and thank you for coming. Let's have a word of prayer. We'll turn the time right over to him. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for your many blessings, that we have privileges like this to come and learn and grow and become more effective in reaching our children. I pray that you give us a true passion, a true desire to see our children in our churches discipled for you. Bless our speaker. May the Holy Spirit be here, I pray. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Whether you have grandchildren, nephews, nieces, or with children at church or in Sabbath school, okay, or our parents, or maybe pastors, whatever it is, right? Many of us, I would say the majority of us, are involved with children somehow or another. And children play such an enormous role in our lives many times, right? I am already asking my daughters, when are you going to get married so I can be a grandfather? Not a father-in-law, but a grandfather, right? Because I would love to have little ones around the house. But they tell me, Dad, slow down a little bit. Anyhow, I am so glad to be here. I'm glad to see Prof. Rosita here with us as well. She is part of the training team for the North American Division. So she goes out and does our training as well in Spanish for both Alive in Jesus and with certification that we have. So I'm glad that you're here. Rosita, thank you for being here with us. So let me start with this simple question for you, okay? But this is very important. Well, not a question, but a little statement that I have for you, okay? And let me see if I can change my slide here. Perfect, okay? Before I get into what I'm going to do right here, but most of us in this room, let me be more bold and say all of us in this room care deeply about children. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Right? We teach them, plan for them, and we pray for them. And I really hope that we do that for the children that are in your lives, right? Because I believe that they are important. Now, here's a question I do want to ask you. Are we helping them know Jesus personally or just know about him? It's a difference. Did you hear the question? Yeah. Right? Are we helping them know Jesus personally or just know about him? Okay, is the question. So today today what we're going to concentrate on is Bible studies. How do you do a Bible study? How many of you have done Bible studies just for adults or anybody? How many of you have done Bible studies? Okay, so let me get a little more, what do you say? How do you say that? A little more. How many of you have done Bible studies with children? Okay, perfect, very good. So we have some people of experience here. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to share some information with you about this. So what we are calling today, we have part 1, which is now, and then we'll have part 2, which will be at, what time is the part 2? Yes, exactly, and it'll be right here as well. So if you come to the first part, don't miss the second part, because we're going to get a little more practical than the second part. But right now, I want to lay out a foundation for you. So what I'm calling this is Holy Wonder and Holy Chaos, Bible studies that stick. Now, as a children's pastor and I wasn't a principal, I haven't been a principal yet, so, but thank you anyway. Maybe you're predicting something. But I've been a school chaplain, I've been in children ministries for many years, as a pastor for children, as a pastor for youth, as a chaplain at an elementary school, Evidence School in Maryland. So I've been working with children for a while, and now here with the North American Division. But one of the things that I always wanted to figure out is Bible studies for children. And let me tell you why, because they would come and ask me, Pastor, I want to do Bible studies. And when it came up at first, I was like, oh no, how do I do Bible studies for kids? Oh my goodness, And so I struggled and I looked and I searched, and throughout the years, I've kind of learned a couple of things in regards to doing Bible studies. So, move back, you said? Okay, sorry. So anyhow, the question that we have today, or what we want to do today, is set a foundation. How to lead Bible studies that kids remember, okay? Because what I found out was that if children don't remember about the Bible studies, then it didn't happen, okay? It didn't happen. Let me tell you what I did the first time I started doing Bible studies for children. I played movies, the Bible movies. These were children that were from 3rd grade to 6th grade. And so I'm like, I'll just put on movies about Jesus, right? Cartoon movies. And they enjoyed it because, I did it after school at the school. And so they enjoyed it, and they were sitting there watching a movie. Who didn't want to do that, right? But I realized that they really were not getting what I wanted them to get, which was to know Jesus and have a personal relationship with him. It was just entertainment, right? And so that's not what we want to do when we have that opportunity. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at the purpose. What is the purpose of Bible study for children? And this is specifically for children, right? What is the purpose? What are the outcomes that we want to see? And also, who's our audience? That's simple, right? That's easy. Our audience are going to be the children. And so we want to make sure that we have all of this in mind. So what are we going to do first? We're going to do an activity, okay? This is going to be easy. This activity is called Teach It Like a Child. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 3, no more than 3, okay? Get into groups of 3. If there's only 2, okay, you can stay in 2, but try to find 2 other people and yourself, okay? Let's see if we can do this pretty fast. I'll give you 10 seconds to find somebody, because we're on a clock. So 3 people, okay? And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. If you have a Bible or you have the Bible app, go ahead and open it up to Psalms 119, 105, okay? Verse 105. And I'm sure everybody knows this verse, okay? So go ahead and find Psalms 119, 105. So there's going to be 3 roles that you're going to play here. Are you ready for this? One person is going to be the one that's going to teach this Bible verse to a 9-year-old. So there's a 9-year-old, and you're going to teach him something about this verse. Now, the other person is going to be the 9-year-old. So you have to act like a 9-year-old, okay? Those that work with children, you know how 9-year-olds act, right? So you're going to be the 9-year-old. The third person in your group, if there is a third person, it's going to be the observer. Okay, it's going to be the observer. Now, you don't have a lot of time. Let me get out my timer. Where did I put my phone? I forgot where I put my phone. But you're going to have 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. This is what I need you to do. You're going to read Psalms 119, 105 really quick. And then, excuse me. Oof. So then what you're going to do is the one that reads it is going to explain this verse to the 9-year-old. Now, 9-year-olds, those that are 9-year-olds, you got to act like a 9-year-old. So if it's not interesting, act not interested. If it's fun, it's fun. If it's whatever, it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? The observer then is going to observe, okay, how did it go? Okay, because we're going to debrief a little after this, okay? Are we ready? Everybody pick their roles already? Did you all pick your roles? Okay, so where did I put my phone? I don't remember where I put it. Oh, here it is. I am going to give you 1 minute, okay? So let's give you 1 minute, and that way we know how we're doing. Are you ready? Are you ready? And the time starts now. All right, you have 50 seconds. Yeah, please. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, you have 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Remember, 9-year-olds, act like a 9-year-old. You have 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Nine-year-olds, you can ask questions, interrupt, all that good stuff. All right, time's up. Time's up. Okay, observers, did you get some feedback? All right. So, I don't know if we have a roaming mic. I forgot to ask, but if we don't, that's okay. What I want to do is just one or two observers give me some feedback. How did it go? Anybody volunteer? Any observer volunteer to give some feedback of what they saw and what they thought? Okay, perfect. Yes, sir.
I finally got a chance to prove that my wife is a 9-year-old. But the person that taught the lesson was really, brought in practical information from life, and then mentioned how Jesus could be the light, flipping a switch or whatever, and it was very good.
Okay.
She did a good job.
Okay. So let me go back to him, sir. Just one more question for you. What from what you saw, what worked from what she did? Was it the giving that actual experience? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Using an actual experience was good, but no offense, but she came down to the 9-year-old level, and
okay.
she spoke to a child as if she understood, and the child would understand.
Okay.
So that's kind of like what I've noticed.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Who else? Okay. So let me ask you, the observer that's going to talk right now. Let me ask you a question. In your observation, was the 9-year-old engaged?
I thought so.
Okay. What made it engaging from your observation?
She did hand motions for each, main word. She had a hand motion.
Okay, she had a hand motion? Mm-hmm. Oh, very good. So she made it kind of more animated.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. What was there a moment when the 9-year-old was kind of lost in the whole thing, or did you see the 9-year-old kind of having attention the whole time?
I thought she was pretty engaged with the hand motions.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Very good, excellent. Anybody else? Any other observation from their group?
So very similar here. The instructor did hand motions.
Okay.
And then after all the hand motions, then she went back and asked, do you understand what this means? Do you understand what the light is? Do you understand? And yeah, I think the 9-year-old liked that motion.
Okay.
Gave him something to relate each word with.
Okay. All right. Very good. Good job. Give yourselves a hand, everybody. Right? That's very, very good. See, many times what we do is we get a Bible text with children, we get a Bible text and we just read it to them. And then we just kind of talk and explain it to them. As adults, you know, that's how we're spoken to, right? Many times we get explained and they give you all this information about it, and then you make up your own mind on what you understand and what you want to learn from it. Children's minds are different, right? Do you agree with me? Children's minds are different. Remember, children learn by playing. Children learn by having fun. You know, I had somebody, and I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but I had somebody come up to me and say, no, children should not be having fun reading the Bible. I'm like, huh? What? Yeah, no, the Bible is serious. It needs to be taken serious. I'd have my children sit down and they listen to what I say. I was like, yikes. Yikes. We all know that children learn having fun, and the Bible is fun. What Jesus said is fun. You know, what he wants from us is great. And so we have to make sure that we bring that to our children when we teach them the Bible. One of the things that I learned quickly as I grew up in church. How many of you grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church or in a Christian church, right? Yeah, in a Christian church, right? When I was growing up, information was transferred from my Sabbath school teachers to me. Information was transferred, just boom, boom, boom. You know, I knew all the stories of the Bible because they told me all the stories of the Bible. 13th Sabbath, I was up there repeating all the Bible texts for the whole quarter, right? However, at the end of that quarter, those Bible verses were gone because now I'm learning the other ones. Because I wanted to be the person up there. I've always been kind of a person, like, I want to be up there, you know, as a kid. And so I wanted to memorize them all, but they had no meaning for me. And so many times when we tell stories, sorry about that, my throat is getting dry. When we tell the children's story or when we tell children Bible stories, we end up just telling them the story. And it has no meaning to them. And it doesn't show them who Jesus is. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go along. So let me ask you this question. Why do kids disengage? Why do they disengage from listening to adults talk to them about the Bible? Why do they disengage? Because there is no substance for their age. You know, we tend to want to just tell a story. One time I was telling a story to a preschool, and I knew it was important for them to hear this story. So I brought up some kids and I told, you guys are puppets, okay? You guys are gonna be puppets, so just let loose. And so they let loose, and so I started telling them a Bible story using them as puppets, you know, their hands and everything, and voices, right? Like David and Goliath. And so Goliath was out screaming, hey, you come here. And the little kids were just laughing. You know, they were laughing and having fun. Come here, children. And then I said, come here, you're David. Hey, and I quoted David in there. And then there was the kids were the people from there, and they were, now I want you guys to say this. So they were engaged in the story. But I didn't just leave it there. Then later I asked, so who is David? Who was with David? So I began to, and they were little preschoolers, and yet they were like, David left Jesus, you know, and they were answering the question, and I'm hoping and praying that stayed in their mind. Now, I could have easily sat there and said, okay, so there's a story in the Bible about a giant and about a Bible character who was going to be a king, and this is what happened. I could tell them that, right? That's the easiest thing. It takes no effort, but then it makes no impact in their lives. And so we have to make sure that we do that. Now, there are some barriers as well to all of this. So let me ask you a question. Why do children grow up in church and still drift away? Why do you think that happens? You have children, many times they're active in church, or they go to church every single Sabbath, right? They're in adventurers, they're in pathfinders. But why do they still drift away? Anybody? Yes. They don't have a personal relationship with Jesus. Great. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, I wish I had done this, but I think I should make their
Okay. Okay, so kind of ask them questions about who God is and kind of bring that more personal to them. That's exactly it. You hit it right on the dot as well. Okay, when we do Bible studies with children, it's because we want them to know who Jesus is. At the North American Division, Children Ministries, we have this idea, okay? And I want you to do this with me. And I know some people, is there younger folk here? Because then they'll look at me and say, that's so old, Pastor Jerry. You know, but I like doing it anyways because it's still fun. But we do this, okay? Our idea is that we want children to say yes to Jesus. But the way we say it is we want children to hashtag say yes to Jesus. Okay, I know that's some old stuff, but I love it anyways. All right, I'm not a young pup right now, so can everybody do that with me? Okay, we're all going to do that together. When I say we want children to, you're all going to say out loud, hashtag say yes to Jesus. Are you ready? Okay, we want children to hashtag say yes to Jesus. So when we have that in mind, every resource that we create, everything that we talk about is based upon we want children to say yes to Jesus. Hashtag say yes to Jesus, okay? Because that's important. Now, when children grow up in church, okay, with no real relationship with anybody in church, with too much talking to them and at them, you know, with no follow-up, with no engagement, church just becomes a place that they go to every Sabbath. And they might have fun during that time, but when they start getting older, you know, when they start getting into those preteen, right, into those teen years, you know, they start kind of like, well, I want to be cool, and so church isn't really cool because I didn't really do anything there. But studies have shown that when a child grows up in church, engaged in church, being part of the church, you know, helping out, you know, I mean, I love it when I go to a church and they have what they call, you know, junior deacons, right? And they're you know, anywhere from 5 years old, you know, till they're 15 years old. And they have these children who are participating as deacons. When I see children behind the cameras, when I see them engaged and stuff, well, I was 9 years old when my auntie told me or asked me to be her Sabbath school assistant. 9 years old. That impacted my life. That impacted my life. You know, that set the foundation for my leadership in church. It's important that we see children as important in our churches, but most of all, we have to see them as children that need to know Jesus. Like I was saying, I grew up in church. I knew all the Bible verses, so I knew about Jesus. I knew about Jesus. Oh yeah, Jesus is in heaven. You know, yes, Jesus died on the cross. Yes, you know, he's in the Bible. But I didn't have a relationship with him. I didn't have a relationship with him. So even though I was involved in church from a child, when I got into I think I was like 18, 19 years old, I started thinking, what am I doing here in church? I was helping out, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. Nobody gave me the opportunity or told me how much Jesus wanted to have a relationship with me. And so what did I do? I left the church. I had leadership in church, but that wasn't enough. I did not know who Jesus was and what he could do in my life until later. I can say that later I really truly gave my life to Jesus. And I haven't looked back since then. But it was that foundation that I got as well. So it's not that we're, you know, that it's just no good at all. Yes, we give them something, a foundation, but we have to go a little further than that nowadays. Okay, because children of today are seeing things different than, you know, than when we were growing up, right? Children now, we're going to talk about that tomorrow when I talk about parenting and technology and how this world is now. We're going to talk about that tomorrow as well. But, you know, they have a whole different life nowadays. So instead of blaming kids, we're going to rebuild how we do Bible studies. And so I have a couple of things that I do want to bring to you. I have 5 best practices. We're going to talk about 3 of them today, and then 2 more this afternoon to finish up, okay? So I hope you don't miss the second part of this. So we don't start with behavior, okay? Because it's very easy for us to say, oh, this child is, oh, look how they behave. We don't start with behavior. We start with Jesus. Jesus has to be the beginning of a time that we spend with children in Bible study. Who is Jesus? Why do we want to have a relationship with Jesus? What has he done for us, right? We start with that. Yes, children are going to be rambunctious. How many of you have experienced, a group of children where they're just sitting there calm and not doing anything? Right? I never have. When I was doing the Bible studies at the school, I had 43 kids doing Bible studies with me. And let me tell you, that was holy chaos. Okay? Because they were, first the school it was after school. And so, they already were, school's over, and they'd come in there. But, it was always fun to see them switch and become engaged. I gave them nicknames. Some of the kids, I would call one of them Giggles. You're Giggle, because she giggled a lot, and she loved it, And then all of a sudden, all the kids would say, what about me? What's my nickname? And I'd have to figure out a nickname. Okay, you are Tolly, or whatever. I would just make up, and they would love it. I knew their names, and I knew who they were. So that's why they were okay with me giving them these nicknames. I didn't do it just because I didn't know their name. I did it because I wanted it to be fun and engaging as well. So we don't start with the behavior. We start with Jesus first. Now, every Bible study should answer this question. Are you ready? Who is Jesus? Has to start with that. Who is Jesus? Quick caveat. We need to know who is Jesus. If we don't know who Jesus is, how are we going to explain that to children? We need to know who he is. The next question that we need to then have, or that we should answer, is, what does he offer me? What does Jesus offer me? You have to answer that question for yourself as well. What does he offer you? For me, he offers guidance, he offers peace, he offers joy, he offers salvation, he offers forgiveness. See, children struggle a lot with the forgiveness part, because sometimes we give them a guilt trip, right? Hey, you don't behave, Satan's happy with you. Whoa, what do you mean Satan's happy with me? Yikes, right? Or if you don't do this or you don't behave like this, you're going to make Jesus cry. Okay? I grew up with those kind of words. And even, regardless of what you believe in, I was told that if I go to the movies, my angel stays outside of the movies. And so if something happens, an earthquake comes, because I grew up in California, if an earthquake comes, my angel's not going to be there to help me. Okay? We try to scare our children about Jesus, and we can't do that. And what do I do with this information? What do I do with this, right? What do I do with what I'm learning in this Bible study? So, you all know the story of Zacchaeus, right? Who knows the story of Zacchaeus? Okay, we all know it, right? We know you want to see Jesus, climbed the tree, saw Jesus, got invited to dinner. And Zacchaeus who was he? All right? Was he doing good in society? Right? Okay. So, let me ask you this question. What does this teach us about Jesus, the story of Zacchaeus? Somebody tell me. What does it teach us? Yes. He doesn't hold what we've done. Okay. All right. Very good. Anybody else? Yes. He sees you when others don't. I'm liking this. You guys are getting it. Okay. Yes. I like that, when I go to Mexico, I'm tall, okay? But when I come back to the States, I'm short. Very good, yes? He wants to hang out and have a meal with you. Very good. See, we can tell the story of Zacchaeus. There was this wee little man, right, who wanted to see Jesus, climbed a tree to see him. He did, and Jesus invited him, and he invited Jesus to come over to eat, and he did. The end. What are the kids going to say? Nice story. La, 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 la. But when we bring up things that are relevant to them, right, it makes it more interesting for them, and they learn something from it. We have to bring something out, right? And we have to show who Jesus is. And what would you invite a child to do with this story? What would you invite them to do? Once you tell them this and you bring all this up, what would you invite them to do? Yes?
Befriend someone.
Befriend someone. Very good. Yes?
I'd have them act it out.
You have a what?
I would have them act the story out.
Act it out. Very good. Okay. Yes. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes?
Have them invite Jesus to come to his house too.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Yes?
Depending on the age, but once you told them acted out the story, now, can you tell me what things do you think that helped Zacchaeus understand his life? And have them write down and pick out characters, whatever.
Okay. What about activities? After you tell them the story, what activity can you do with them for them to have fun with this story? You see what I'm saying? We have to many times think outside the box. I love everything you said. Great, great. Let's add to that then, how do we make it more active for them? How do they get involved with it? Because that's what's going to stay in their mind, right? I saw a hand up. Go climb a tree. That's an activity. Oh, but careful with that. Right? You see that? We have to make sure that we make things. I saw a hand somewhere back there as well. Yes?
You can have them draw a picture.
Draw a picture. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else? I want to make sure that I'm getting everybody. Absolutely. Now, one thing that we teach when we do certification training is the different styles of learning. How many of you are aware of the different learning styles that are out there, right? Remember, not all kids like art. Not all kids like to get up in front. Not all kids learn the same way. So we have to also have that in mind, okay, on how we teach this. How much time do I have? Oh, I got to move on. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so when kids see Jesus clearly, behavior follows naturally. We don't have to tell them, stop doing that because this, or I'm going to tell your parents. When they see who Jesus clearly is, the behavior is going to follow them naturally. Okay? Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect because they're still children. They're still going to push those boundaries. They still want to have fun. They still think that things that we don't see silly are silly for them. Okay? So we need to see that. All right. So best practice number 2. Multisensory. This is what we want to get into. Children learn by doing, not just listening. Okay? Do you agree with me? Yes. For them, doing is so important because they don't like to sit there and just listen to somebody talk to them. If kids are only listening, then adults are doing all the learning. But who's the Bible study for? Not for me. I have a different one. It has to be for the children. So we can't just talk and talk and talk with them. Okay? So, I have a phone right here, right? How many of you have a phone? Okay. So, what is the truth about this phone? What do I know about this phone? A lot of information. What else? I can communicate with others, right? What else? It's mine, right? It's mine. I have a picture in there of my wife, which I miss right now. See, I have a picture of my wife in there that I can look at. Oh, my wife, you know. So we know the truths about this phone, right? We understand what this is all about. Why? Because we interact with it every single moment of our life, except when we're sleeping. Even when we're sleeping, it rings. Oh, what? Who is it? right? So we know that. Now, I would normally ask you to take a couple of seconds to create like a 30-second object lesson on something that you know about. But we don't have the time right now because the time is flying, and I want to get through a couple of other things here. But you really don't need materials. You need more intention when you do Bible studies. You need to have, you need to make sure that you know, what outcome do I want when I do Bible studies? What outcome do we want? Let me ask you that question. What do you think the outcome needs to be when we do Bible studies? Yes? Get to know Jesus personally. Let me tell you something, and this is I believe is still kind of controversial in our church, is when should children be baptized? When is a good time for children to be baptized? You know, some people don't like children to get baptized. Some say, well, they have to have Bible studies first, right? Some say they need to understand. Some others say children already understand. It's okay for them to be baptized young. You know, there's different, ways of thinking about this. I can only speak from my experience and working with children in churches and things. I believe that children truly and they're going to be the most honest about the relationship with Jesus when they're young. They have no baggage. They have no agendas. For them, Jesus is real. We are the ones that show them the real Jesus. And so they want to say, I've had children, of course, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, I'm going to say, okay, let's wait a little bit, right? I've baptized children that have been 7 and 8 years old. And let me tell you something. After I talk with them about it, I talk to their parents about it, because we have to have something super clear. Bible studies and baptism is not a graduation. Baptism is not a graduation. It is the beginning of their walk with Jesus. And that's kind of what changed my mind in regards to baptism with children, is that I make sure they know, the parents know, they know, the church knows, that when people, it doesn't matter what age it is, when they get baptized, it's not the graduation. The graduation comes when Jesus comes and takes us home with him, because then we're done here on earth. What is important is that that's the beginning of their walk with Jesus. That's when they're going to need the most support. That's when they're going to need the most that they can get in their Sabbath schools, in adventurers, and everything. Our church should be giving kids Jesus every single day to have a relationship with him. Not to know who he is, but to personally know him. And it starts at that age. And some children and some parents are going to say, no, I want my children to have Bible studies. That's fine. I'm never going to force a parent and tell them, no, come on, you're wrong. Your child wants to get baptized, so let's do it now. I'm not going to do that, and I've never done that. You know, it's up to the parent, and some parents are fine with that, because you know what? After they get baptized, they can have Bible studies as well. What we want them to know is that they can have a relationship with Jesus. You had your hand up, sir. Yes. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. One of the saddest things that I saw when I was working with children is when I asked them, how many of you believe that Jesus came to save you? Yeah. How many of you understand and know that heaven is free for you and that you'll go to heaven? And there were some kids that didn't raise their hand. I was like, what? We all should know that heaven is for all of us, and that we have a path to heaven through Jesus Christ. But some of the kids were like, I don't know. And I asked a couple, why didn't you raise your hand? Because I haven't learned how to behave right. Broke my heart. I was there, I almost lost it. And I had to reassure them that Jesus loves them no matter what, And that when we go to him and ask forgiveness, he forgives us. He's not the kind of God that's going to look, you messed up, I don't know, man, I'll think about it. That's not who God is. That's not why Jesus came. He came to show us love, and he said if we ask for forgiveness, he forgives us. That's why Jesus shed his blood for us. And children need to know that and be very aware of what Jesus did for all of us, right? Anyhow, sorry. So, okay, perfect. So, best practice number 3. Let me get in here. Oh, did I miss a part here? Sorry. Okay, so multisensory, right? Did I even mention, sorry, multisensory, it has to be everything. Children like to touch, children like to smell, right? Children like to hear, children like to see, okay? So when you do your Bible studies, make sure that you include all that multisensory stuff into that Bible study. Some kids they're not going to care about what things smell like, but they're going to like how it feels. You know what I'm saying? So we have to maintain that in our mind all the time as well. Also, the object lessons. What are we trying to teach the children? What are we trying to bring to their hearts and their minds that will help them understand and have a relationship with Jesus, right? And then read, do, and ask and pray. So you're going to read the story, that's fine, but then you're going to do something with that story. Do an activity, just like we were talking about, and then you're going to ask them questions to see where they're at. Do they understand? Did they know? Did they get the point? And maybe they don't get it, but they get it in their own way. Okay? One thing, please don't try to make sure that they answer the question like you want them to answer it. Because we might have the answer, right? We might think we have the answer. Well, this is the answer. But children may have a different type of answer that's more to their age. So I never tell a child that that's the wrong, unless they go really way off. Well, it's because the robots and this, I'll be like, okay, But we want to make sure that we ask them and then pray. Pray is important. Prayer has to be part of all of this, okay? Because prayer is, we're showing them then that they can talk to God, the Almighty, the creator of this whole universe, that God sees them important enough to listen to them as they pray as well. Let me move on here. Okay, so three levels of teaching here in practice number 3, okay? 3 levels of teaching. You're going to have the beginner part, okay? What happened? The growing part. Why does it matter? And then the leader, teach it back. Okay, those are the 3 things that are important in the Bible study as well. So right at the beginner part, what happened with all of this? What's happening with what we're talking about? What's happening with the story? Okay? And then why does this story matter to me in my life? What am I going to do with that? Right? What does this mean to me? One of the hardest parts to do is to kind of bring this to be relevant to our children. That's why when you work with children, you should be aware of what children's world is all about, right? They're involved in so much technology. I'm not saying that you bring this technology to your Sabbath school class or to your children's program or stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. Or that you have to have technology. But you have to be aware, what are children into these days? What's taking up their space in their mind? Okay? One of the things, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, when I talk about parenting and technology and the challenge with technology, is that these devices now are used as babysitters. That didn't happen before. It didn't happen with us, right? Unless you're super young and you grew up in that era, right? But the new generations that we have, that's all they know. And parents, that's all they use. But we'll talk about that some other time. But just be aware. Be aware of the children's world so that you can be relatable, okay, when it comes to this. Teach it back. So then once they know, right, they can be now also, they can share this. Children share Children share what they like with their friends, and they'll do it. Hey, I saw this. That's how children know about, game. I had a parent say, my child is never on technology, but my child knows everything about stuff. Why? Because their friends shared it with them. Hey, have you seen this? No, my mom doesn't let me have technology. Well, let me show you. And so they'll share what they like if they understand that relationship with Jesus, right? They will share that with their friends. They will. They don't do it because we haven't made it for their age many times yet. But believe me, if they get excited about Jesus, they're going to share Jesus as well. Remember, we're not raising listeners. We are raising disciple makers. Did you hear what I said? We are not raising listeners. We are raising disciple makers. We want them to be disciples of Jesus and spread the good news of the gospel to everyone that they can. So, from today on, okay, I'm going to challenge you with this. Will you change your Bible studies? Will you change the way that you do Bible studies with children? And at what time is the 2 o'clock session, somewhere around there, we'll be back to talk about the last two best practices about this, and it's more about application then. This is just setting the foundation. But we need to make sure that then we change the way that we do Bible studies. And I'm going to challenge you, after we finish with both of these parts, I'm going to challenge you to take the opportunity then to do Bible studies. If you have already, great. If you haven't yet, I challenge you to do it so that children can have a relationship with Jesus. If you already do it, I hope that I've given you some ideas right now, and then the second part, that are going to help you add to what you already do when you do Bible studies with children. Yes? Absolutely. I like learning. I still like having fun. When people just talk at me, I'm like, I tend to fall asleep. That's why we do some applications. That's why we do activities, because even as adults, we like doing that. Okay. So when we come back at the second part, we're going to talk application now. Okay. We're going to talk about, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So there's going to be some activities that I'm going to ask you to help me with. That are going to be fun. Believe me, that are going to be fun as well. Are there any questions? I think we have 2 minutes? 1 minute? Anybody have? Yes. Oh, the mic is there. So that they can hear online.
When we're talking to very young, you're talking to them about the flood or things where God has done those rare acts. I have a really hard time with that, with little kids presenting God as love.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better to avoid those until they get older, or how do you tell them this? And
Very good question. But there's some rough stuff in the Bible, right? I mean, there's some real stuff in the Bible as well. Depends on the age. When they're young, when the younger they are, or I should say when we start from young, I do concentrate more on who Jesus is and what he did for, and what he's done for them, and what he can do for them, and make it more relevant, and those stories. Automatically, children are going to have questions. And really, not that I avoid those things, but I do address them more when the questions start coming out. Because then I do give, Old Testament lessons to children. I talk to them about the Old Testament where there's killing and God sent. Because I had a child ask me that. He asked me, so if God is so great, why is he killing? Why did he kill a whole bunch of people? Those are the kind of questions that are difficult to answer. And time is up. So I'll answer that in the second part. Is that okay? All right. Well, thank you very much. God bless you. Let me say a quick prayer, and then we're done. And then we'll be back here again at the